could we apply the right amount of leverage to achieve the right end result? It was a huge gamble for every member that committed to this path because we risked our future in Congress if we failed. We risked our future committee assignments and retribution from leadership. We risked being threatened with primary election challenges, being cut off from campaign support, and we certainly suffered significant verbal abuse from a number of conservative talk show hosts on both TV and online, and y'all remember that. But contrary to what the major news media was saying, we did have a plan, and we did execute to that plan. It just took a little longer than we had intended, but we were prepared for as long as it took. I think C-SPAN had the highest ratings it ever had during the speaker battle. There was very little audio because all the noise on the House floor, but for hours people were glued to the pictures coming through on their televisions because this was a historic battle, something that had not happened in over 160 years. And I'm sure you remember during the House's first week in January, it was very contentious. Instead of selecting a speaker on the first ballot, a group of 18 of us planned to vote for a different candidate than the party nominee. But we actually got 19 on the first vote. Congressman Keith Self from Texas joined us, and we really didn't even know he was going to do that until the actual first vote. We had 3 sequential votes on that first day, and so 19 of us held together and held the line. But what we could not have happen was to start losing votes. The 19 had to stay strong and resist being picked off one at a time. We actually decided that we had to sit together, literally physically sit together on the House floor in order not to be pulled off and influenced. If that happened, if any of us got picked off, it would show weakness, a lack of resolve to stand up for what we believed was right. It was tough, but we decided that if we didn't hang together, you're going to hang separately. And none of us wanted to do that. In fact, in one of our morning strategy meetings before each series of votes, I can remember Congressman Bob Good from Virginia 5 making a very interesting comment when he said, "You know, gentlemen," he said, "if this doesn't work out, the only committee we're going to get is the dumpster committee. And then the only question after that is who's going to be the chairman." I want you to know that during that week, every strategy meeting, every one of the 20, started and ended with prayer. And as a matter of fact, there were numerous times where halfway through that meeting, we were like, "Lord, what on earth are we going to do?" And we stopped and we just prayed. And God gave us the wisdom. We needed wisdom, and that wisdom came from prayer. As votes continued through the course of 4 days on the House floor, many in the district texted me and asked what was going on, that this is no way to start the majority because the media portrayed it as chaos. And you remember that the Republicans didn't know how to govern. You know, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I'll never forget the cartoon in Fox News on their website of the elephant with the big GOP 2023 sign across its head, or its body, with a gavel in one hand, hitting itself on the head like this, you know. It was a wrong picture and it told an incorrect story, but I have to admit, I thought it was pretty funny. But that is what was being portrayed in the media. So almost everyone who texted me about the voting quote chaos, I sent a version of this response. I texted back, "Please be patient. This is the way a constitutional republic operates. DC is broken, and we all know that. One example for you, just look at how many Republicans voted for the $1.7 trillion omnibus spending bill. I voted against it. I hope you understand. I hope you understand that I did not come here to perpetuate the status quo. I intended to hold the line till we either got the right person or the right tools in place to hold leadership accountable and get fundamental institutional change on how DC operates under Republican control. If not now, then when? If not us, then who? If we kick the can down the road again, as Congress is famous for doing, positive change will never happen. And I have committed to positive change. This is what fighting can look like, and that was the text I sent to people. All during the first day, the 19 conservatives held the line for the first 3 votes. Then on the second day, Congressman Byron Donalds from Florida joined us. And now we had 20 holding the line for fundamental institutional change. We were not losing votes, we were gaining votes, and that continued through day 3 for a total of 11 votes. It put a tremendous amount of pressure on the Republican Party nominee to come to the table and negotiate the kind of change that had to happen for Congress to be made better. You see, my fight was never about personalities. Over the last 2 years, I had built a great relationship, a great working relationship, with now Speaker Kevin McCarthy. My fight was purely a principled one. It was about restoring the people's house. Our fight was to break Washington's status quo, to end top-down dictatorial leadership, to drain the swamp in the House, and install transformational change that fundamentally altered the institution, ensuring the people's house actually works for the American people again. And I wanted it to stick long before my time in Congress is over. And that's exactly what we accomplished. From bringing back the 200-year-old Jeffersonian single-person motion to vacate the rule, which held the Speaker accountable to the members, to allowing 72 hours to actually read a bill before we had to vote on it. Amazing. Speaker Pelosi had eliminated both of those basic common sense rules in order to consolidate power at the top. No more of, as her quote said, you have to pass a bill so you can find out what's in it. No more of that. She eliminated regular order, which is now back and is required. And regular order means a bill must go through the committee process so it can come to the floor for a vote. No more backroom deals and then 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 folks create the bill, throw it on the House floor, and the only thing we have is an up or down vote. We have no opportunity to amend it, no opportunity to debate it, nothing. And that is ended. We negotiated for an open amendment process for legislation so all elected members will have an opportunity for input on every bill that comes to the floor. And we secured a guaranteed vote on critical bills that had never had a vote before, like the Balanced Budget Amendment, the Texas Border Wall Plan, the Term Limits Bill, and my very favorite, the Fair Tax Bill that eliminates the Internal Revenue Service. So people would never again have to file an IRS tax return. We would instead go to a consumption tax, like a federal sales tax. Finally, we negotiated a return to fiscal sanity in Washington, getting an agreement to cut the budget by almost $150 billion and working our way toward a balanced budget, because that's the focus, a balanced budget. We don't spend more money than what we take in. So how can the federal government do that? No, that it has to be fiscally and financially responsible. And that's what we accomplished, working toward that balanced budget. The top line spending number for fiscal year 24 goes backwards to fiscal year 22. Not a reduction of an increase. That's not a reduction at all. That's not a spending cut. But an actual, real spending cut. The agreement we successfully negotiated, it's not perfect. I would have liked a little more. But it moves us forward a very long way and empowers both individual elected members and their constituents. 20 conservatives held the line, and I'm honored to have been one of those 20. And I'm proud of the victories we secured for the American people, and we secured for the 9th District. Once we achieved these historic changes, I agreed to change my vote, and I spoke this preamble before the 12th vote. Based on the framework of an agreement to significant institutional change, I vote for Kevin McCarthy. I voted for him on the 12th through the 15th ballot when he finally became the Republican Speaker of the House. Looking back now 3 months later, I wouldn't have changed a thing. I joined 19 of my colleagues in a principled battle that you, my 9th District, sent me to Washington to fight, and we ultimately won, delivering a major victory on how Congress operates for all Americans and will operate under Republican control for a long time in the future. But that was just the beginning of our victories. We have passed H.R. 1, the Lower Energy Costs Act, to help make American energy self-sufficient once again. We passed H.R. 5, the Parents' Bill of Rights, because we want parents' influence to be in the classroom. We passed agree to eliminate the authorization and the funding for 87,000 IRS agents. We eliminated the military vaccine mandate, and among others, we passed H-Res 26, which vetoed the city of Washington, D.C.'s soft on crime bill. That was my bill. It passed the House and the Senate in a bipartisan fashion. That bill took 31 Democrats on the House floor to join us as Republicans. In the Senate, we got 33 Democrats in the Senate. But you know who didn't vote? Warnock. You're exactly right. Raphael Warnock did not. In fact, he didn't even have the courage to vote yes or no. He voted present, which isn't a vote at all in the Senate. That means you don't participate. That's what our Senator Raphael Warnock voted. Biden threatened to veto it, but in the end, we forced his hand. We forced him to cave, and he signed the bill into law about 2 weeks ago. The very first bill of the 118th Congress is my bill, signed into law by a Democrat. Wow. Next week, we'll have another one of my bills, H-Res 42, to strike down the anti-police bill promoted by the Washington, D.C. City Council. And then the week after that will be the third bill, H-Res 44, another of my bills to strike down Biden's pistol brace rule that the ATF has unconstitutionally put in place. But the best wins of all will be the appropriations process, where we cut the budgets of every three-letter agency in the federal government. Money is power in D.C. And when you cut money, you cut the bureaucracy, you cut their power, and you increase freedom. Our founding fathers were wise men and forged a free future for our nation and carefully crafted a government that protects we the people from tyranny. This is precisely why the United States of America continues to serve as a beacon of freedom and prosperity and democracy all across the world. As the great President Ronald Reagan once said, freedom is a fragile thing. It's never more than one generation away from extinction. It is not ours by way of inheritance. It must be fought for and defended constantly by each generation. For it comes only once to a people, and those in world history who have known freedom and then lost it have never known it again. That will not be us. We will not lose our freedom through apathy or neglect. We will stay engaged. We are the 9th District. We are the powerhouse of conservatism in Georgia, and we will lead the way. And that's why I think our next state party chair should be our current 9th District chair, Rebecca Yardley. And that is why she has my full and complete endorsement. She will lead the GOP, the Georgia GOP, to higher heights, higher than we have ever seen before. And that's why it's so important for every one of you, everyone who's here, to be at that convention. We need the 9th District's votes. Every delegate, every alternate, be there. Make it a priority so we can put this lady on top as the GOP chair. May God bless each of you as you engage in this process and elect the right leaders who will lead the way to protect our precious liberties. Thank you for your prayers. I know I've heard last night, many of you came up and said, we pray for you, and we pray for you. And thank you so much, because that gives us strength, gives me strength. Thank you, Sully Dale Glory. It's an honor to serve you.